Terry McClaurin has asked for a trade. Tom, I give you the floor here. What does this mean? What happens next? Why did he feel the need to do this, do you think?
There are certain buttons, Rich, that anybody can press when you get deep into a contract negotiation that's really not moving down the tracks. For Terry McLaurin, I mean, this was apparent from the end of last season. This goes all the way back to the combine, that there was an acknowledgement that Terry McLaurin was not going to play on the roughly $20 million that he's owed in 2025. And the question was going to be, what would be the number that would get a McLaurin deal done? You can look at some of the other wide receiver contracts that have gotten done through the course of the offseason and certainly make an argument that Terry McLaurin should be somewhere in, is it the $32, $34 million range? Certainly something that begins with a 3. The Commanders, who are looking at this, they're in year 2 of a new regime, coming off of really impressive first season, obviously for Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn and company. But they're also, like every team, trying to think about their long-term budgeting plans and everything else. McLaurin's been one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL. 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's a pillar in the community. He's a guy who's been really strong locker room presence, and he's been through a lot. I mean, it's a lot to play your whole career in Washington the way things have been going prior to last season. I know that everybody likes to just say at times like this, pay the man. Well, there have been conversations about it. The Commanders would like to do an extension, just not at the same numbers that McLaurin is looking for. And so, he had the holdout. Then it was essentially a hold in. He did have a real ankle injury that he rehabbed at the end of last season. He's on the PUP list right now. And now it's a trade request. I mean, those are the buttons you can push. You try to create a little bit of calamity and chaos around the team, make them answer certain questions that might not be the thing you want to be talking about through the course of training camp. Do I anticipate that Terry McClaurin gets traded? Certainly, I would not say it's impossible, and there would be teams willing to make a Terry McLaurin trade. However, it's August. Like we're beyond the point of where you could replace a Terry McLaurin for your team, and so this is a challenging situation as it has been. And there's still decisions that are going to have to be made if this doesn't move in terms of a new contract here. At what point does Terry McLaurin declare himself cured and gets on the field? At what point did the Commanders say, hey, you got to play on this deal? All those things remain to be seen. But this was the logical next step, barring a contract that really the size of not been even close on.
No, I mean, we went down the list at the top of the show of trade demands that were made, and everybody went back together and kumbaya at the end. Lamar Jackson is the biggest name that you could pretty much figure out. And Brandon Ayuk in terms of the wide receiver department is one of them as well. So, what's the number? What do you think? Is it DK's number that he's shooting at? Is it Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb's number that he's shooting at? What do you think it is? Because they have to do it, Tom. They can't trade him. And he's not going to play under the current deal. Like there's a number. The number exists. Tom,
listen, you can make an argument that Terry McLaurin, just based upon how the market moves, at some of those deals you're referring to, like Jefferson got done over a year ago. You can make the argument that Terry McLaurin should be in that range. Just me thinking and having a general understanding of the market dynamics,
right.
I would say somewhere in the low 30s is probably where a Terry McLaurin deal gets done. And listen, he was on a deal that 3 years ago was market value, but the $20 million receiver 3 years ago is now the $30 million receiver here. That's where you see these massive contracts like the one that DK Metcalf got. It's still the biggest deal, even after TJ Watt signed his extension. It's still the biggest money in terms of total dollars deal in Steelers history for a guy who hadn't even played a snap there. Terry McLaurin has been through a lot. This is the first year that he would even have the same starting quarterback 2 years in a row since he got to Washington here. But there are teams that, fundamentally are going to look at a 30-year-old wide receiver and say, we're just not comfortable making that investment for years to come, which, listen, every team's got to make their own decisions. These are challenging when you're talking about third contract players. But the argument from Terry McLaurin and his agent, Buddy Baker, I'm sure would be, well, if you're not going to pay him, why not trade him? Why didn't you trade him back before the draft when you could replace him? That would have been the logical time to do it. We're still rolling through this thing. But as you mentioned, Rich, we see trade requests every year. And it's like it's all, I don't want to say part of the playbook, but it's just, we all know the different buttons you can push. The trade demand is kind of the last ditch effort, the last thing that you can do here. And if Washington just continues to say, hey, we're not going to trade you, we want to sign you, but not at that number, then McLaurin's going to have to, make some decisions. Is he going to ultimately show up, play on that number, or play on an upgraded 1-year contract, which I don't think that he really has an interest in? or is he going to take the best deal that he can possibly get on a multi-year contract? Those are the different things that are moving forward here. We're down to about 5 weeks before the opener, and we'll see how it shakes.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.